Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who have joined today for the session of Youth for Youth isummit 2021. We welcome you all. Hope you are enjoying the sessions organized so far. The Youth for Youth isummit is being organized by Lookup and the creators of the Netflix docudrama The Social Dilemma. Lookup is a youth-led social venture dedicated to helping young people thrive in a digital world. Through its flagship programs and events, it discovers, empowers, and mobilizes youth leaders who are taking action to raise awareness, inspire, and design a healthy, more inclusive, and equitable digital world. Today, the title of our session is Declutter and Recharge. Own your social media. Most of us present here today have our own social media presence: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. We have our own reasons to be there. The reasons could be different for different people, whether it is for professional reasons or personal branding, sensitizing issues that we strongly believe in, or for raising funds for some causes, or say simply staying connected with the friends and family. The fact remains, we simply can't escape social media anymore. Social media is a great tool for sure, but it requires deliberate control and introspection. Many of us who are here would resonate with this. While trying to create a better image of ourselves, or being ambitious, or say obsessive of positioning us in the best way, we somehow forget ourselves. How many of you feel that urge to go back to the content posted by you again and again to check the number of the likes? How often you feel disturbed when you didn't see much appreciation of your content and pictures, or with negative comments? Do you control or be controlled? How many of you have gone through such experiences? Please share your thoughts on the chat box. Also, we have opened a poll. Please respond to the poll. The poll says that we have been talking about social media consumption by the people. In fact, as per a study, about 80% of the smartphone users check their mobile devices within 15 minutes of waking up each morning. What do you do? So we could see the poll result is coming up. I request everyone to please answer the poll. While the poll is on, let us now proceed further. How do you own your social media before it owns you? Let's ask our panelists. Today we have two panelists. Both are social media influencers and are in different points in their social media journey. Both have their intense personal experience with social media. Over the next 45 minutes, let's find out from these two wonderful young girls, actually young leaders, what they stand for, how they have created their own identity on social media, and what they do to own the space. Let us also find out tips on how to declutter and recharge. So let us know more about our first panelist, Zaynab. Can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sevashree, and good day to our global audience. My name is Zaynab Zubair. I am a technology adoption and change management professional based in London at Ernst & Young. Part of my job looks at how do we create a modern workplace, and that includes employee engagement and digital well-being strategies for this new hybrid working world that we're all in. But what I'm here today to talk to you about is my 2-year hiatus from social media and what I did to start rebalancing and creating a healthier relationship with social media. And I really want to share some of the tips and tricks that I've learned in the last 2 years with you.
Thank you, Zaynab. Thank you so much and welcome to the session. Prarthana, we would like to know about you more.
Absolutely. So thank you for a very generous introduction to the session. And my name is Prarthana and I am an entrepreneur, and I want to start up my own bakery business in Bangalore, the city that I live in. And basically, I'm here to talk about how I started creating queer and basic content on the internet about half a year ago. So it's been a very interesting experience for me, and it's made me, well, quite forcibly have to use social media to interact with the community and create the kind of content that I am. So that's what I'm here to talk about today.
Thank you. Sorry, my video got disconnected for a few moments. Thank you so much and welcome to the session. A bit about myself. I am Sevashree. I am a seasoned communication and brand expert with more than 2 decades of experience. In my individual capacity, I work with many youth-led forums that are engaged for different causes. I am a mentor and advisor for Aspire for Hub and Mukamar. These are organizations working for inclusive workplace and women empowerment. I am also a co-founder for Demystified Initiative, an organization that is talking about inclusion for the vulnerable community and the digital divide. Demystified Initiative is a community partner for Look Up India for these sessions. It is absolutely a pleasure for me to be moderating this session because I have been associated with online media space very early on, back in the 1990s. I'm sure many of you not even born then. From then to now, I have seen this digital space changing and evolving. It has been such a great learning opportunity. Every day is a new day, so much to learn and enjoy. However, like everything, social media has its pros and cons. It has its power to engulf you, control you, confuse you, and finally disturb you mentally. Today, we want to talk about this. So, Prarthana, let's begin with you. For our participants, can you please tell more about what you do on social media space and why you do what you do? Over to you, Prarthana.
Thank you very much, Sevashree. So what do I do on social media? I'm basically very gay on social media. That's all I do. So growing up, you don't really see a lot of people who are gay or lesbians or queer and also Indian and brown and desi on social media. So my main motive was to kind of do that because I really wanted to see it. Like I would spend hours in front of my Google search bar, trying to figure out if there was anyone else like me, trying to find similar experiences and stories. And whatever came up was pretty slim. So in an effort to sort of fill that gap and maybe give other people like me some relatability and some sort of content that they can see themselves in, I started making jokes, telling my story and posting pictures and sharing some of my thoughts about being queer and desi on social media. So that's basically what I do. And why I do it is because, well, A, it's really fun. B, I really like doing it. C, I get a lot of sweet messages from people who say that they like seeing something like this. And I also like seeing something like this because I'm very tired of seeing only straight people all the time. It's kind of dull after a while. And you sort of start to wonder where all the gay people are. So I guess that's my main effort to sort of just give some more visibility to the community. So yeah, that's my answer to that question, Zaynab.
Well, that's pretty interesting, Prarthana. Thank you for doing that actually. And now let's move to Zaynab and find out her story. Zaynab, in this forum we are discussing about owning social media, but your story seems to be a bit different. You have disowned it altogether, been there, done it, and finally felt something is better left private, or we can say between social media and yourself. You chose yourself. I would say that's quite inspiring, actually. We would like to know more about your story. Over to you, Jenna.
Thank you, Sevashree. I think much like most young people, I was swept up in the craze of social media, right? So before Instagram became the e-commerce platform that it is now, it was simply a place where people posted a picture of themselves and then shared their life. And so mine was sort of an organic growth. Initially, it started off as an alternative to Facebook. I was done with Facebook. Everyone that I knew was on it, and it was just a bit sort of saturated. And then I thought, okay, let's try this new thing, Instagram. And it was about just posting pictures, and organically it started growing into a lifestyle platform that I didn't expect it to go there. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have a vision. You know, you heard Prarthana's content is very specific and it has a purpose. Mine just was about my life, and it then turned out to become more about influencing. And it was growing a following around the Sri Lankan community based in London, you know, where to go, what to eat, what's the latest restaurant that's opening. I was blogging for Time Out magazine as well. And it just sort of took on a life of its own. And at one point, I remember just sort of stepping back and thinking, this is exhausting. I am having to post about everything. If you didn't have a picture, if it wasn't on the gram, it didn't happen. I was doing it for the likes. And of course, I was having personal change in my own life, and it was really addictive. It was escapism to be able to have validation from a community of most people I didn't even know. And it wasn't purpose driven, you know, and I think I'll share a bit more as we go on, but having a strategy to your social media in this day and age, especially when it is a commercial platform now, you earn money from it as well. It's so important so that you don't lose yourself in that journey. And Sevashree, you said, you know, I've disowned it. I've slowly come back to it again. And with much healthier practices, I'm using my own name. I had a different persona before. And I'm learning how to ensure that I can still have individuality and not feel pressured to share my whole life with the world.
Interesting, Jana, very interesting. So here is a question for the audience. Please check the poll. Zaynab left her the social media because she chose social media. She chose her mental well-being over social media. So, what is your opinion, about it? She did the right thing. She should not have. Please express yourself on the chat box. Also the poll. So Zaynab, so here we have the answer. 87% feel that you did the right thing.
Thank you. For the 12%, Sevashree, if I may respond to that, for the 12% who say I shouldn't have, I did have that comment a lot from people saying, do you know what, you can decide to stop, you can decide not to post, but really your brain chemistry and your behavior as a human being, when you have a forum and a platform, you do feel this compelling need to do it. So unless you completely detach, and we are talking about decluttering, and unless you completely detach and you don't have a place for that picture or that comment or that post to go, you really don't change your behavior. So really, as much as we can say, oh, you can still manage your content, it's not that easy, because I was still, even after deactivating, I was still taking pictures and thinking, where am I going to post this?
Well, we have a question for you later on about this, so we'll come back to you. Prarthana, just a minute. I'm just having problem with this phone. Okay. So Prarthana, we heard from Zaynab that she went completely off social media because she opted to declutter the mind by unplugging. You are working on a course that definitely needs more sensitization, and conversation on the topic must go on. Do you ever feel any such pressure, especially keeping in mind the sensitive topic you are talking about?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything that Zaynab has said. It can be an extremely draining thing to take up. I think before I ever started my social media handles and my YouTube channel, I had a lot of trepidation for almost 1 year. I would, wonder about, what about my safety, my mental peace? If I decide to put myself out there in this fashion, I'm going to be jeopardizing all of it. I might even jeopardize my relationship with my family, or this kind of safety that I might have at home and in living in my city by being so public. So there was that. There was a threat. There was a fear for physical safety because of how homophobic our society can be sometimes. And there was also that thing of, I'll have to be on social media all the time. I'll have to see what people have to say about me. I'll have to look at other people living their lives. It can be so exhausting. You just can't handle it after a while. So yeah, after a lot of consideration, I decided that the pros outweighed the cons, and that it would be worth it for me to do something like this. I would never have decided to actually join social media and be very public on it if it wasn't for the fact that I was queer and desi. If there was more queer and desi representation, I would never bother trying to create anything of the same. And even now, like, especially considering how personal that topic can get sometimes, I do take a lot of space from social media whenever I can. I regularly delete the app off my phone so that I don't actually have to keep checking, because like Zaynab said, it actually changes how you behave as a person. You can't help but want to go see how your new post is doing, what people are saying. It's addictive. It's literally like you're getting all of this validation and acceptance, and it's everything you crave as a human being. How can it not be addictive? So yeah, I feel like I do try to separate myself from it as much as I can so that I can continue doing it well and continue actually being authentic and creative on it.
Well, I think that is quite good to hear about it. So we have a question related to this, to Zaynab. Zaynab, we have often read about people's obsession with getting maximum traction on their posts. So much so that, for instance, when they travel, and you were talking about that also a little bit before this, they spend most of their time capturing the best picture or footage. And after posting photos, they stay hooked to the mobile to see the number of likes on a real-time basis. This gives them a great sense of satisfaction. In fact, instead of feeling the joy of travel, their happiness is more attached to the number of likes. Did you ever go through such an experience?
Countless. So I used to travel a lot for work and for pleasure. It's one of my hobbies. And I remember I was actually in India. I was in Goa, and there was this beautiful sunset. And there I was on the beach with my camera, well, my phone, trying to take a picture of this beautiful sunset. And in the rush of taking this picture, I missed the sunset, right? So I managed. I took a picture. It wasn't even the best one. And at that moment, I was thinking, I completely missed a sunset in Goa, and I do have a picture, but at that moment, I wasn't present. And we hear a lot about this, and people say it, but really at that moment, I thought, okay, this needs to stop. You need to be able to go to a museum and not take a picture of every single artifact there is there. You're not going to post it, to be honest. And I think besides the sort of fact that you're not present in that moment, what I do now instead is, this may sound really cheesy, but I take a mental picture, a mental snapshot. So I'll sort of sit in that moment. I'll enjoy the feeling of how I felt sitting on a beach in Goa, the calm, the sense of beauty around me. And then I just sort of do this, because that's just that mental snapshot. And I can go through my mind and take myself back when I'm in rainy old London working. I can take myself back to that beach again, because I'm not going to go through my phone for that picture, am I? But in my mind, it's there. So I think that's really a healthy practice. That's not to say don't take pictures, please go ahead, but don't miss that moment. Don't miss that sunset in life.
Well, that's very good to hear. So we have one question on the chat box, and which is very related to what you talked about now. So how do we create those boundaries between your social media life and personal life as a social media influencer? And don't followers want to know more and more about your life?
Prarthana, I think you're the perfect person to answer that.
I think, all right, sure. I think I have spoken to Zaynab about this before, and she brought up some lovely points. I think really have to decide, like Zaynab was saying, you really have to have a strategy for what you want to put out there, so that it doesn't end up taking all your life away from you. It doesn't end up publicizing every single bit of it. Like, waking up in the morning and posting something, posting your meal, posting your every vacation and all of that. If you end up doing that, I feel like it definitely ends up getting very mentally exhausting. So I always try to create a boundary, try to have an idea in my head of the kind of content I want to put out. I don't want the content to be focused on myself. I want it to be focused on certain experiences of mine that I very, in a safe space, I've managed to process them, and I've managed to, make them more, like sort of make them less personal and make them something that people can actually look at, read, and I won't feel uncomfortable with them doing that. So it's very personal content, but it's not like I'm posting pictures of my face every morning or anything, because I don't see how that would be bringing value to my audience. I think that sharing an experience of specifically something about being desi, something about being queer, I always try to focus on those parts of my life and put that out there so that it actually ends up, benefiting my audience and giving them what they came for. They came for queer and desi stuff. They didn't come for me. So I want to give them that kind of content. Like, I've had a lot of times when people are like, "Hey, you bake so well. Why don't you put that up on your page? Because you have so many followers that can check it out as well." And I feel very awkward to do that because I'm like, no, that's something separate. That's my thing. That's something I do separately. It's my career. Why would I want to put it up on my social media? Because then I feel like I'll be putting too much of myself on there. So I feel like having a strategy of the kind of content you want to create really helps it from leaching into your personal life.
Yes, thank you so much. I think that makes sense also. So, would you like also tell us, when you started doing the videos and it was out, how about the reaction from the community, from your friends, your family members? Because I'm sure your videos are doing well. They must have got a chance to also go through that. So, what was the reaction then, and how it actually impacted you then and now?
I think I had this very strange sense of I'm not very like in real life and how I am on social media. There's one main difference is I'm more candid when I'm on the internet, which is quite shocking. Like, there are stories that I've told absolute strangers on the internet that I've not even bothered telling like my closest friends and thing. And it's very odd because you would think that it would start in a closer circle and then widen out to telling, sharing it with more people. But for me, I felt more comfortable sharing it in front of a camera, no matter who was going to end up seeing it. Because in that moment when I was actually speaking, I felt like I was alone and I felt like I had that privacy. And I feel like the reaction from the community has been my biggest motivator to continue making videos. A lot of people are just like, yes, this is the kind of content that people want to see. It makes us feel better about ourselves. It helps us accept ourselves better. And that's such a crazy thought that something I might say might actually have such a profound impact on someone. So I feel like that's been my biggest motivator. It's actually been rather awkward whenever my friends and family, like people I know in real life, come and approach me and they're like, "Hey, I saw your video, it was so nice." I'm like, "Oh no, please don't talk to me about it." It's so awkward because I feel like again, it's something more to do like with that persona I have on social media of sharing like only things that are queer and desi. So yeah, I feel like I mostly enjoy interacting with the community through this. It's given me that opportunity to do that, which I didn't have before starting this page.
Wow, that's very inspiring to know. So there are a couple of other questions on the chat box. Let me pick one or two from there. Then we'll move ahead. So maybe this is a question for you, Zaynab. How do you feel about restrictions on social media for the employees? Because we know there are guidelines for employees, and so here we are talking about social media guidelines for the employees for sure. So what is your reaction to this?
It's a very fine line these days. I think since we went into COVID, a lot of people have moved their interactions and networking onto platforms like LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has seen a massive explosion of content. And there is definitely a fine line because unlike our personal life, where there really isn't guidelines except your aunties or your parents saying, "Oh, don't post that." In the workplace, there is strict guidelines depending on what company you work for. I would say you'd need to check with the HR department. See, we've got Sevashree here who could probably talk more about that. But There are ways still to be authentic on LinkedIn, and I think making it personal, talking about your personal experiences, or if you're not happy to share, this is coming from me, then talk about it in a crowd sense perspective. So I was having a chat with colleagues, or I spoke to friends who experienced this. That way, you're not, in a sense, going to offend the organization you're working for. But also just really think about what you're posting. I have seen the lines blurring on LinkedIn, like people wishing each other for their birthdays or putting causes, sharing their family photos, etc. So again, like with everything, there's a strategy. You need to think about who you're posting to and what you're posting. And those are two things, whether it's for a digital workplace scenario or a personal scenario, you need to really think. It's not, oh, let me post everything that's out there. And also the algorithm on LinkedIn, you have to be very careful, because if you like something on LinkedIn, everyone in your network will see that you've liked or commented on that. So avoid political, religious stories that if you're not willing for your boss to see it, don't go like and comment on things. You've seen it very recently with LGBTQ, or also the conversation around Black Lives Matter in the UK. Specifically, I've seen content, and I think I didn't realize my colleagues had this persona about them. So yeah, you just have to be sensible and ensure that your strategy, both at work and in your personal lives, fits that image that you want to portray.
Yes, thank you so much. I totally know, what you are reflecting here. And so very, very related to this question, Prarthana, there is a question for you, taking the same topic ahead, we understand that when one creates the content, obviously follows up to see the number of likes. That also gives a sense which content is working and which isn't. So we tweak our content accordingly in order to create more response. So here we are talking about shifting to style as well as tone to readjust to followers' preference. So do you think that impacts one's creativity? As a creator of video content, are you constrained by these factors? And does opinion of your followers influence you?
Yeah, I think the more of other people's content you consume, your creativity gets very dimmed out, Zaynab was also mentioning this when we were speaking earlier. And I really think that you can't help it, you kind of imbibe what you see around you. Especially the thing is, if you end up creating mainstream content, if you end up watching, Instagram reel trends and make a trend that is reeling, make a reel that is trending, then you end up getting more likes and more response to it. It ends up reaching a larger number of people because it's more palatable. And that's why the majority of reels are just doing reel trends. They're just following the same things that some people have come up with. They're plagiarizing work. They're using, the same kinds of moves and dances and songs and all of that. And I think that can definitely start your creativity, because where does your creativity come out? You're seeing what someone else did, and then you maybe inject a little bit of your own personality into it, and you're spitting it back out on social media. And I feel like if you try to make content that's palatable to that majority of people, that ends up being on explore pages more easily, that ends up working for the Instagram algorithm, then there's no creativity that goes into it. Sure, you might end up getting a lot more followers. You might end up getting a lot more e-commerce deals, because Instagram has just become more than becoming sharing something. It's becoming a race to having more likes, more followers, and becoming an influencer. And I feel like yeah, that was another thing that I was really worried about before joining social media, because I actually went off social media for around 2 years before joining back publicly with my new account. And because I didn't want to see what other people were doing, because I felt like it was interfering with my own thinking, my own thoughts and all of that. Because it's so addictive to keep watching more and more, like it could be the dumbest thing, like that person could be frosting that same cake over and over again. You'd be like, wow, keep going. I want the next one, I want the next one. And I feel like, especially from my personal note, being someone who creates clear and basic content, my audience must be about 0.00001% of people who use Instagram, to be honest. So if I try to make content that's palatable and mainstream, it's not going to be queer and basic content. It has to be something else that will actually work. I made one reel that wasn't about being queer, and it hit way more views than anything else I've made that is specifically about being a lesbian. So I was just like, yeah, this is exactly how it works, because more people end up relating to it and liking it. But then you lose out on what you came to do, and lose out on making, giving people a sense of relatability when they actually need it. So I feel like focusing on likes, focusing on followers is only going to dim your own originality and your authenticity. I think it's always best to just do what you actually want to do with it, even if it doesn't get you as many likes and followers, because at least you'll be happy with what you're doing, and you don't have to keep worrying that there's something more that you can do with it. So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Prarthana. What do you think about it, Zaynab?
To Prarthana's point, trying to feed the followers the content and grow traction, there is a point if you're doing it intentionally, right? So if you're looking to become a brand ambassador or you want e-commerce deals, do it, absolutely. But creatives in the past, if you think about writers and artists, they didn't have that instant feedback loop. They wrote a book and they painted what they painted and heard about it years later. It's just this instant feedback loop that you get from audiences that sort of then starts to filter your content, and you think, oh, actually I got 200 likes from that and 1,000 from that, so therefore the content needs to be filtered. And you see that it's sort of a sound chamber where you're just creating the same content and you're not being authentic. So really it depends all again on purpose. Prarthana's purpose is very clear, and if we're speaking commercially, she found a gap in the market and she's filling that gap with authentic content. Now people can copy the exact same thing as Prarthana does, and they might make it more commercial, which is fine. But the point is, as long as you're sticking back, and I would say that everyone who starts a profile, write down your vision, your mission, your strategy, the what and the who and the where. That way, when you ever question your content, you can go back to that piece of paper and say, actually, what I'm going to post does not relate to what I originally started this for. And it will keep you honest in your journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Zaynab. I have another question for you. You talk about digital well-being a lot, and it's a topic very, very close to your heart, both at work as well as in your personal lives. So can you share with some tips with our participants, some framework for controlling social media presence?
Absolutely. So we covered LinkedIn, which again can, I remember during the lockdown, LinkedIn just kept tugging at me because it was, people were posting about hybrid working, about how they felt. It was finally a space where everyone was in this shared narrative around work at home. I know, dealing with their kids and their dogs and their partners and COVID at the same time. And it sort of became addictive as well. And I would say with LinkedIn, again, go back to that piece of paper. What is that image you want to portray? When it comes to your personal social media, it's two different things, right? So there's the theater concept and there's the house concept that I talk about. Now, the theater concept is when you have a topic, much like Prarthana's, where you want an audience to come, to attend, to listen, to engage. Now, that doesn't mean you have to bring your whole life to the stage. You're bringing you're bringing a version of it. You're bringing a curated version of your life. That's not to say you're not being authentic. It's still you, but you're bringing a story that you want to share. Now, when you're creating a purpose-driven profile like that, then think of that show as think of it as a theater. However, when it's your personal social media, think of it as your house. So if you think about the amount of people that we actually let into our house, some people, they'll come to the door, you'll ask them, oh, what is it you want? And then you might close the door. Some people you might invite to your living room. You might say, come have a chai, sit, let's chat. You might not ask your wife and your husband and your kids to even come and say hello to these people. There are others who might walk into your house, they'll open your fridge and take a Coca-Cola and talk to your family. And there are still others that will go straight to your bedroom, sit on your bed, turn on the TV, and maybe even stay the night. So if we're so exclusive with our physical audiences, why is it that we're okay to share our personal lives with everyone? regardless of who they are in our life, should your best friend have the same level of access to your personal life as that person just walking by and just wants to peep through your windows, you wouldn't let that happen. And it's again a case of privacy. So that's one thing I would think about when you create your accounts. You can have a public account, a private account, you can have close friend groups, you can decide not to share particular content, you can create audience segmentation. That's not to say that you're hiding content from people, you're just choosing whether to let them into your bedroom and your kitchen or your living room. And then also there's a privacy angle to this. So when you're traveling, if you're instantly posting content, one, they know where you are, your house is vulnerable. They know that you're not in that physical area as well. So another tactic I use is I think about which room I'm letting these people into in my life. But also another thing I step back and think about, I don't post for 24 hours. So if I take a picture today, I'll give it 24 hours and I think, okay, is this actually adding to Prarthana's point? Are people coming to see this content? Am I giving them something valuable? Is it something that's going to enrich their life, challenge their thinking? Is it something about myself that is worth sharing? And then I post it 24 hours later. Sometimes I look at something I'm very excited about now and think, this is so exciting, but in 24 hours, it really is not. So yeah, I would just keep in mind that concept of your privacy is your house. And that's not to say don't post. There's some really great opportunities with social media if you use it correctly. But you just need to know where to segment your audiences and what to share.
Well, that was very, very interesting analogy that you presented, quite interesting. So let me read one message from the chat box, very interesting one. This conversation is going to become very important in the future as more of our economy and market is on social media. Being an influencer is going to be even more desirable to the younger generations. So you already, both of you are social media influencers. So what's your reaction? Maybe Prarthana, you.
I'm sure that'll be a very it does look like a very desirable thing to get into because you seem like you're not doing that much, like having a lot of fun and getting to be yourself and making money off of it. It seems like the ideal scenario, but I feel like it eats away at your mental well-being a lot of time, a lot more than maybe some other careers would. So I feel like anyone who gets into social media to be an influencer or sort of share any sort of stories that they have, I think they absolutely should. But I definitely hope that they look at it as not being sharing themselves, but always sharing something about themselves or sharing something that they've been through or they want to publicize more. It helps to always keep boundaries and, like Zaynab was saying, to have a mission and a vision and to treat it like a business. If you want to make money off it, become an influencer, treat it like a business, give yourself into it, but also have a separate goal for it that isn't your own personal goal. I feel like that's the only way that it can actually end up being a healthy thing to take forward.
Yeah, totally agree, Prarthana. So there is another comment also I would like to read. It's easy to achieve money or fame, but that is something that is infinite. You will achieve it and you can achieve more of it, but it's not as fun to the brain as wanting to motivate others, help others reach their potential. That is something infinite and you get a chance from those people too, while you don't get a thanks from your money. Any reaction to this? I mean, very well said, huh?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So there is a comment, another comment for you, Zaynab. Your privacy is your house. You decide who you let in the front door, bedroom, etc. So there is an appreciation for your presentation of privacy and how do you. So it's nice to read the comments.
I love all the
there
comments.
is one for you, Prarthana. This is very useful information. Thank you. Great to know that what is your vision for the start on Instagram. So they know they want to know about your vision, on Instagram. So could you please tell me a little bit about more that?
Sure, I want to be gay on the internet. That's my vision. That's pretty.
That's good. And I'm looking for more questions. There are too many questions. And in the meantime, Zaynab, you could tell us also a little bit more about if you want to do well in your job, because you are coming from such a good organization. Maybe how do you build, your personal branding? Probably you can talk a bit about more.
Absolutely. In fact, I got my job because of LinkedIn. So I was a private consultant contractor in the insurance market in London. And because I was posting, and again, very clear message like Prarthana had, I was posting during the pandemic about how to collaborate and be productive at work during the pandemic, because everyone was getting burnt out. Being on calls 9 to 5, well, 9 to 5 would be lucky, 8 to 8 p.m. And the global organizations that we work for, there is no leaving the office concept anymore because we're all working from home. So I was sort of sharing best practice on how to use products like Microsoft Teams. And I managed to be involved in this modern workplace initiative at EY because of that. And I would say that when you are growing your personal brand, and as a young person, you want to be sought after by organizations, it's very important to have a clear message on LinkedIn, just as much as you would have in your personal lives, because you cannot really detract from it and delete content. It will always be there. So if you are having strong views and opinions, feel free to share, create a brand, but have a very clear message. If you're going to be talking about race, or you're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion, which is a very hot topic right now, really be authentic. It's not just about lip service and posting something. Be involved in opportunities like this where you get to speak, go and actually start and make change happen. Don't just reshare and post things that other people are doing. If you're going to really want to create a brand and you want to have those opportunities, better jobs, more interesting initiatives, actually do more than just say. That's what I would add to this conversation.
Thank you so much. There is another question in the Q&A session. In our country, if you weren't on social media, people hesitate to communicate with you in persons, like at school, college, workplace, and think you are antisocial. People value relationship on social media more than in person. Can you suggest anything about this, please? Any of you or both of you?
I have a lot of family who are not on social media, and a lot of friends. And at first you sort of think, oh, you want to tag them in something, or you want to share something, and they're not there. But I think there's a huge following of people actually taking a break. And I respect them for it. It doesn't mean that if you don't have a presence on social media, it doesn't mean that you're less than. But if the people you're surrounding yourself with genuinely only want to be your friend because they can tag you, then really you need to be questioning your social circles more than anything else. And as you get older and more mature, it really does, you do reduce your social media time and presence. I did. And I think having those more meaningful relationships, I would rather meet someone and have a coffee or dinner or lunch than endless WhatsApp conversation with them. And I think if you're finding that people are excluding you, like I didn't have it for 2 years. If people are excluding you because you're not part of social media, then you reach out to the people who matter and say, look, let's meet up, let's go for coffee, I want to have a proper chat with you. But I think as the world progresses, there will be a lot of people who genuinely don't want to be part of it, and that's okay. You just have to respect it.
Totally agree with you, and that's really good. So we have so many questions on the chat box, on Q&A section, and thank you so much, participant, for giving so many questions to our panelists. So there is one more question that I would like to take. Is there some way for influencers or marketing or social media marketing to be ethic? I recently started a course for social media marketing, and the teacher literally said, marketing has always been about creating demand by cleverly attracting and keeping people's attention. So they even encourage business to get into applications like WhatsApp because that's where their customers are privately there. It was quite shocking to hear. Any comments, any reaction on this? We all know about this.
I think marketing always is sort of unethical. I think the fact that you're trying to influence how people are thinking and, trying to coerce them into liking your products better or wanting your services, it's always going to be a little unethical. And I feel like a lot of these social media spaces have sort of been overrun now with marketing. Like Zaynab was saying, like Instagram used to just be like a place to share personal stories, and now it's like people are looking out for like brand deals, and like brands are approaching people left, right, and center to push their brands because it still has that feeling that, hey, this person is doing something personal. You're getting a personal recommendation from this person for this product or service. But I feel like that's quickly going to end up changing because the sheer level of marketing that's inundating these social media platforms. And I feel like some other, I don't know, social media is going to come up and people are going to shift there and Instagram is going to become obsolete. And yeah, I feel like marketing does end up taking away a certain level of personality from these platforms.
Yes, and that is exactly the film Social Dilemma also talked a lot about it. How the audience are retargeted for the products, for the marketing purpose, and we have seen also that happening with our own life. You open the Facebook, you would see that the products that you were thinking are exactly there on your screen. It's like sometimes very scary actually. I mean, that was in your mind, and within few seconds you see it actually happening. So that is how, and even if conversation within your family members, you get reflected on your Instagram because you see products, you see so many things appearing on your screen. So that is somewhere we have been talking, and this is exactly what, like this kind of forum must talk and make people aware of the other side of social media. So I think we had a good discussion, and if you think you would like to add something before we conclude the forum, it's already 45 minutes and we didn't realize also it's, so if you want to add something, maybe we can do, you can do that, and before we close it.
Do you want
Yeah,
us, was it us, or do you want to ask more questions from the audience?
No, I said that before we close it, if you want to give some final comments, maybe any final comments for our audience.
From a digital well-being perspective, take the breaks when you feel like you need it. If you are honestly, and Prarthana has also shared with us that being who she is, even she deletes the app after she posts because she doesn't want to see all of the likes and comments immediately. Give yourself that time. Do a cleanse. We all talk about detoxes and cleanses. So I would take a month off social media just to reconnect with yourself. Do those things that you've always wanted to do, learn a new language, or go to that theater or that museum. Give yourself those healthy breaks. As much as we have diets for our body, let's give our mind a diet as well, because a lot of what you do in your life is actually being influenced by content you're seeing around you. So for your digital and mental well-being, give yourself that mind diet. Let your brain rest and think. I'm currently on holiday, and just not having to think about emails and work, my creative side has actually been adding to my growth. And my brain chemistry, as I called it, has completely changed during the last week. So my only advice would be take those breaks, delete those apps, even just move it to the back end of your screen, or turn off notifications if you can, and give yourself a month off. I mean, I took a long time off, but at least a month off every year or every quarter would be healthy for you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think breaks are super important so that you just don't get sucked into the world of social media. And I feel like with this whole pandemic and lockdowns and all of that, we are focused, and the importance that we're giving to social media has like magnified. I feel like now it's become like the only space that we get to connect with people, and we actually get to express ourselves and stuff like that. And that ends up giving it like this unnatural level of importance in our lives. Like I feel like before lockdown, before the pandemic and stuff, we used to still acknowledge that, hey, social media is kind of bad for us. Maybe we should, lay off on it. Like we can't have our phones in our hands all the time. We used to at least attempt to, consider that there are cons to social media. I feel like now we're just like, yeah, we have to. There's no other choice now. We have to be on social media. We have to be on our phones all the time. Otherwise, how else are we going to connect with people? And I really do hope that we take a minute to always step back and look at the cons of social media, because, there's a lot that, coincide with the pros of it. So yeah, I think using it in moderation is the best way to counteract those cons.
So Prarthana and Zaynab, good to hear from both of you, know how to maintain a balance, using social media to the fullest, but at the same time, know when to detach at the right time, hence managing a good balance. So to wrap up it, here are some tips and tricks, that both of the panelists talked about. Limiting time on social media per day, maybe 30 minutes per day if it's not work related. Creating a morning routine that does not include you going straight to social media. Follow users who motivate you, make you smile, or add value to your daily lives and goals. Feel free to use that mute button if you don't want to unfollow them. When posting a picture, don't focus on likes. Post and go. Stay away from pages that trigger you. Stay off of negative news outlets. Remember, there is only one you. No need to compare yourself. Am I right, Prarthana and Zaynab? I wrapped up it for you. Is any point I missed out?
No, I think that's perfect.
Okay. So thank you, Prarthana. Thank you, Zaynab, for such wonderful insights. I'm sure the participants must have found our session interesting and useful. I could see so many messages on the chat box, which seems that it was interesting. I would like to thank Ansi and Nainar also for their support in the background. Without them, this session would not have been possible. So before we close, I'm happy to remind you that tomorrow, October 17th, we have another interesting pack of sessions loaded with good speakers. The first session will begin at 11:30 a.m. India time, reimagining social networks, creating space to gather, and again at 3 p.m. we have a session with a bunch of social entrepreneurs who will share their stories, what inspires them. So stay tuned. Let's listen, learn, and share game-changing solutions and take collective actions. Bye-bye. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care of yourself and your mental health. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Prarthana. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
It was lovely
Sevashree.
speaking
Thank you,
with you.
Janet. Thank you so much.
Bye.